dock stretched into the night, mist curling from the dark water like ghostly fingers. Mara crouched behind a stack of wooden crates, her rifle leveled at the gang's speedboat idling impatiently at the pier. Every nerve in her body hummed with anticipation. She had tracked these criminals for weeks, anticipating their attempt to flee with stolen intel, and now the moment had arrived. Her breath came in slow, controlled bursts, fogging the cold metal of her rifle scope. Across the water, the boat's engine idled like a predator, ready to leap into the darkness. Mara's heart pounded, not from fear but from focus. Every sense sharpened, every calculation precise. One false move, one delayed shot, and the criminals would vanish into the night, along with the evidence that could compromise countless lives. She signaled Lila, who was perched on the pier's edge with a secondary rifle, her eyes scanning the water for any movement beyond the speedboat. "Steady, wait for my mark," Mara whispered, the wind carrying her words across the water. Lila nodded subtly, muscles tense, ready to react instantly. The boat revved its engine, the sound slicing through the rain-soaked night. Mara's finger hovered over the trigger, her mind running through every possible outcome. They had underestimated her, assumed the storm and shadows would favor their escape. They didn't know Mara's reputation, her relentless precision, or her willingness to risk everything to stop them. Suddenly, a spotlight swung across the pier, revealing Mara's silhouette. Time slowed. The criminals' shouts mingled with the thunder, but Mara's training took over. She fired a single, controlled burst, bullets hitting the engine housing with surgical accuracy. Sparks flew, smoke hissed, and the boat shuddered violently, throwing its occupants off balance. The gang scrambled, firing sporadically at the crates where Mara and Lila hid. Mara rolled to the side, returning fire, every shot deliberate, calculated, and deadly. Lila moved in perfect synchronization, covering Mara's blind spots, ensuring no escape route remained unchecked. The hostages aboard the boat, company employees forced into the criminals' plan, held their breath, trusting Mara to keep them safe. Mara's eyes tracked the boat's movements, predicting its evasive maneuvers. The criminals attempted to gun the throttle, but the engine sputtered, smoking ominously. Mara leaned forward, firing again at the control panel. Sparks danced over the water's surface, illuminating the chaos for a fleeting second. Every shot was a statement. Mara was in control and the gang's plan was unraveling. She ducked as a hail of bullets ricocheted off the crates. Her heartbeat steadied, each thump a reminder of the stakes. Lila shouted a warning, pointing to a man attempting to throw an explosive into the water. Mara's eyes locked on him, her rifle steady. The shot rang out, precise, hitting the man in the shoulder, forcing him to drop the device. The boat shuddered again, this time from panic as its occupants realized their escape was slipping away. The storm above mirrored the tension below. Rain hammered against Mara's helmet, but she barely noticed. Her focus narrowed to the boat, to the criminals, and to the people she had sworn to protect. Every instinct, every ounce of skill honed through years of grueling missions, now determined the outcome of this desperate chase. The speedboat lurched violently, smoke curling from the engine like a warning. Mara and Lila weren't about to let the criminals slip through their fingers. They moved as one, a coordinated strike team, taking advantage of the gang's disorientation. Mara fired another controlled burst, hitting the steering mechanism. The boat swerved dangerously close to the pier edge, water spraying like icy needles. The criminals cursed and shouted, panic overtaking their confidence. Mara's mind raced, calculating the trajectory of every bullet, the momentum of the boat, and the positioning of every threat. Lila mirrored her calculations, eyes sharp, fingers tight on the trigger. They were a well-oiled machine synchronized in thought and action. One of the gang members tried to reach for the radio to call for backup. Mara's next shot disabled the communication device, cutting off any hope of reinforcements. The rain made visibility low, but Mara's training allowed her to anticipate the boat's movements. Every evasive maneuver the criminals attempted was countered by Mara's precision and Lila's unerring aim. The gang's desperation grew. They tried to throw explosives into the water to create a diversion, hoping to break Mara's line of fire. She anticipated the throw, shooting the first device mid-air, sending it plummeting harmlessly into the river. Sparks lit the night, illuminating the terror on the criminals' faces. The second explosive was dropped, and Mara's shot deflected it just in time. Lila moved along the pier, using crates for cover, picking off anyone who attempted to climb aboard the dock. Mara's shots rang out over the water, each bullet finding its mark, systematically dismantling the criminals' plan. They were trapped, exposed, and running out of options. The boat's engine coughed, smoke thickening as the mechanical damage accumulated. Mara's breath was steady despite the storm, her focus unwavering. She signaled to Lila, who nodded, understanding the plan without a word. They were going to stop this escape now, decisively and without risking the hostages' lives. Mara fired a calculated shot at the fuel line visible beneath the boat's deck. Sparks erupted, the scent of burning fuel mixing with the rain-drenched air. Panic turned into chaos. The gang screamed, trying to control the vessel, but the damage was done. The speedboat began to take on water, sinking slowly but surely beneath the stormy waves. The hostages clung to the boat's sides, fear etched across their faces. Mara's voice carried across the spray, calm yet commanding. "Hold on. Help is coming." She fired warning shots to ensure no one panicked further and to keep the criminals' attention on her rather than the hostages. With the final coordinated effort, Mara and Lila ensured the criminals were incapacitated. The boat rolled, listing heavily, then slowly sank, the water swallowing it in a dark, churning embrace. The gang had failed. The hostages were safe, trembling but alive, and the river was quiet once more except for the pounding of rain and thunder. Exhausted but focused, Mara and Lila helped the hostages to shore, checking each one carefully, ensuring no one had been injured in the chaos. Relief washed over Mara, but she didn't allow herself to relax fully. Every mission required vigilance until the last person was safe. As they led the hostages away from the docks, Mara and Lila shared a brief glance. Exhaustion, pride, and unspoken gratitude passed between them. They had stopped the criminals, saved lives, and ensured that justice prevailed, all under the stormy cloak of a relentless night. The mission was over, but the memory of the rain, the chaos, and the heroics would linger forever. Mara and Lila had proven once again that courage, skill, and teamwork could overcome impossible odds, even against a speeding boat, storm, and armed criminals determined to escape. The storm had eased slightly, leaving a cold drizzle that misted over the empty docks. Mara's boots splashed through puddles as she helped the last of the hostages to solid ground. Their faces were pale, eyes wide, shaking from fear and relief. Each person's safety weighed heavily on her, reminding her that every life mattered in this mission. The criminals' sunken speedboat floated partially submerged, a stark reminder of what had just transpired. Mara crouched beside it, rifle still in hand, scanning for any hidden threats. Though the boat seemed incapacitated, experience taught her to never assume the danger had fully passed. Every mission carried hidden layers, one misstep could cost lives. Lila checked the surrounding perimeter, signaling with hand gestures that the area was clear. "No signs of anyone swimming away or hiding along the dock," she reported, voice tight but controlled. Mara allowed herself a brief nod before refocusing on the hostages. She assigned positions, ensuring everyone stayed close and moving toward a safer location, away from potential follow-up attacks. The hostages whispered thanks, their voices trembling. Mara responded with soft reassurances, understanding that fear lingered even when immediate danger passed. One woman clutched her child, tears streaking down her face. Mara knelt beside them, offering calm words and a hand to steady them. "You're safe now," she said, her voice a mixture of authority and empathy. "We won't let anything happen to you." From the corner of her eye, Mara noticed the storm drain along the pier gurgling ominously. She couldn't ignore the possibility of hidden explosives or secondary traps the criminals might have left behind. Moving quickly, she signaled Lila, and they approached cautiously, checking each crate and recess along the dock. Every shadow, every sound was treated as a potential threat. Suddenly, a faint click echoed through the mist. Mara froze, scanning the shadows. Lila mirrored her stance, rifles raised. The hostages instinctively crouched, sensing the tension. The click repeated, a delayed reaction from a mechanical trap left on the dock by one of the fleeing criminals. Mara's instincts kicked in. She fired a precise shot to disable the device, sparks illuminating the night. The relief that followed was tangible. Mara allowed herself a deep breath, letting her shoulders relax slightly. "Stay close," she warned the hostages. "We're not completely in the clear yet." Even now, she maintained vigilance, knowing the importance of securing the area completely. The authorities would arrive shortly, alerted by Mara's pre-mission coordination. Until then, she remained the shield between the hostages and any remaining threats. As she led the group towards safer ground, Mara's mind replayed the moments on the pier, every shot, every maneuver, every split-second decision that had prevented tragedy. It wasn't just skill or courage, it was preparation, instinct, and relentless determination that had made the difference. The hostages were safely tucked into a secured vehicle stationed a few blocks away, courtesy of Mara's coordination with law enforcement. She remained outside, scanning the river for any signs of the criminals trying to regroup. The night air was thick with mist and tension. Even with the main threat neutralized, Mara knew that a second attempt or unforeseen complication could occur. Her earpiece crackled. "Mara, we've got possible contacts moving upriver," Lila's voice reported. Mara's heart didn't race, her training kept her composed, but her focus sharpened instantly. "Coordinates?" she asked, already moving toward the designated observation point. Lila provided updates, describing small lights moving along the water's edge, suggesting the criminals might be attempting to regroup for another escape. Mara scanned the dark river, calculating distances and angles. The criminals had failed once, but desperation could make them unpredictable and dangerous. Every move had to be precise, every shot deliberate. She whispered instructions to Lila, and together they coordinated a containment plan, ensuring the hostages remained secure while they handled the potential threat. The first glimpse of movement was subtle, a ripple in the water, a shadow against the moonlight. Mara's pulse remained steady as she signaled Lila. Both rifles raised, they moved into optimal positions. From this vantage, Mara had the advantage of height and cover. Her experience told her that patience, observation, and timing would be more effective than reckless aggression. Minutes felt like hours as they tracked the movements along the shore. The criminals were trying to construct a makeshift raft from debris, a last-ditch effort to escape. Mara noted the construction, the materials used, and the potential vulnerabilities. Her plan formed instantly. One well-placed shot would disable the raft without harming anyone else in the vicinity. She aimed carefully, lining up the shot with Lila coordinating from the side. The bullet struck the raft's critical support beam, splintering wood and sending the makeshift vessel into the water. The criminals cursed, scrambling to salvage their plan. But Mara and Lila anticipated every action, cutting off any potential escape route. The river became a gauntlet. The criminals were trapped, flailing in desperation as the night's cold water claimed their efforts. Mars signaled to the authorities now arriving at the scene. They moved quickly, rounding up the last of the criminals before anyone could retreat or hide. Mara remained vigilant, ensuring the hostages were unharmed and the criminals fully restrained. Every detail mattered. One oversight could unravel everything she had worked so hard to secure. As the final suspects were taken into custody, Mara allowed herself a brief exhale. The mission had concluded successfully. Lives had been saved, the criminals neutralized, and the stolen intel was recovered intact. Yet Mara knew the weight of responsibility never fully lifted. Every mission left its mark, less visible, but always present in the memory, in the vigilance, in the commitment to protect. The rain subsided into a light mist, the night quieting, leaving only the gentle lap of waves against the pier. Mara stood, surveying the scene one last time. The operation had been dangerous, tense, and high stakes, but she had prevailed. And as always, she reminded herself that courage wasn't about fearlessness. It was about action in the face of fear, precision in chaos, and protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. The morning fog clung to the river like a shroud, muffling every sound except the gentle lapping of water against the dock. Mara had not rested. She knew the cartel would have other caches, other plans, and she couldn't afford to wait. Lila stood beside her, scanning the horizon, eyes narrowing at the outline of a warehouse partially obscured by fog and shipping containers. Intelligence reports suggested it was a key site for the cartel's operations, a potential stash for weapons, hostages, or critical documents. This one, Mara whispered, pointing toward the structure. Everything points here. They won't risk leaving anything behind, not after last night. They approached cautiously, moving along the shadows of stacked crates and twisted metal. Mara's heart pounded, but not from fear. It was the adrenaline of a mission that mattered. Every step was calculated. She knew the warehouse could be rigged, booby-trapped, or crawling with armed guards. She signaled Lila to halt and crouched behind a crate. Peering around the corner, she saw dim lights flickering inside, movement suggesting multiple armed men. Mara's mind raced through possible scenarios. A frontal assault could alert every enemy inside, endangering anyone They needed a silent entry, precision over brute force. Pulling a small tactical tablet from her pack, she quickly mapped out an entry point and possible escape routes. Lila nodded, understanding without a word. Their coordination was seamless, forged from countless missions where hesitation could cost lives. The first step was the exterior guard. Mara waited until the man's back was turned, then moved like a shadow, silent as the night. With a swift, controlled motion, she neutralized him, dragging his body into the shadows. Lila mirrored her actions, taking down the second guard with equal precision. It was a deadly dance, silent yet deadly, executed flawlessly. Inside the warehouse, chaos awaited. The criminals had no idea they were under siege. Mara's flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing crates of weapons, stacks of cash, and a small room barricaded with reinforced metal doors, likely where hostages or critical intel were held. Mara gestured to Lila to cover her, then began assessing the barricade. It was heavily reinforced, but Mara's experience told her there was a weak point, a seam where force or a small explosive could create an opening without alerting the entire building. Lila handed her the tools needed, and Mara worked swiftly, muscles tense and senses heightened. Outside, the faint sound of rain tapping the warehouse roof mixed with distant city noises. Every second mattered. The cartel would return eventually, and they couldn't risk getting trapped inside. Finally, a small section of the barricade gave way. Mara peered through, confirming the presence of hostages, huddled and frightened. She whispered reassurances, signaling for them to stay calm. One by one, they slipped through the opening, guided by Lila's cover and Mara's steady leadership. As the last hostage exited, Mara felt a surge of relief, but no time to linger. A sudden movement near the loading dock snapped her attention outward. A group of armed men had returned, alerted by the faint noise of the operation. Mara raised her rifle, signaling Lila to get into defensive positions. Bullets tore through the air, ricocheting off metal crates. Mara's focus sharpened. Every shot fired had to count. They moved in coordinated bursts, neutralizing threats while shielding the hostages. The warehouse erupted into chaos, but Mara and Lila's training held them steady. Each move precise, each decision a matter of life or death. By the time authorities arrived, called in by Mara's pre-mission alert, the situation was under control. Hostages were secured, cartel operatives restrained, and the warehouse cleared. Mara allowed herself a brief pause letting the tension seep out of her muscles. The operation had been successful, but the memory of the near misses, the precision required, and the ever-present danger stayed with her. A reminder that courage and skill were inseparable in her line of work. Mara thought the mission had reached its climax, but experience warned her that complacency could be fatal. As they escorted the hostages back to the staging area, Lila's earpiece crackled urgently. Mara, we have movement. Multiple contacts east end of the pier. Looks like they've set up an ambush. Mara's stomach tightened, not from fear, but from immediate awareness of the stakes. They were being baited, lured into a trap after having dismantled the warehouse operation. She pivoted, scanning the surroundings, noting cover points, angles of attack, and escape routes. Lila mirrored her movements, rifles ready, muscles coiled. The first shots rang out before they could react fully. Mara ducked behind a steel beam, bullets pinging dangerously close. Lila returned fire, her aim calculated and deadly. Mara's mind raced. There were more enemies than they anticipated, and the hostages' safety was still paramount. They needed a strategy to break the ambush without sacrificing anyone. Mara gestured toward a narrow alley beside the pier, signaling a tactical retreat. and quickly she ushered the hostages into the safer corridor while Lila provided covering fire. The criminals were aggressive, perhaps desperate, but Mara's calm assessment and experience gave them the upper hand. Every movement was deliberate, ensuring hostages were shielded and enemies were systematically neutralized. A shadow moved behind a stack of crates, a sniper positioned to catch them in the open. Mara calculated the distance, timing, and angle, then fired a precise shot that disarmed the threat before harm could reach anyone. Lila adjusted her position, taking down another hostile who had tried to flank them. The alley became a controlled choke point, with Mara and Lila dictating every engagement. The ambush lasted longer than expected, each moment tense, the sound of gunfire echoing through the foggy night. Yet Mara's presence inspired calm in the hostages and precision in Lila. They moved like a single entity, covering each other, communicating silently through gestures honed by countless missions. Finally, the last of the attackers either surrendered or fled into the night. Mara kept her rifle raised until the immediate area was fully secured, scanning for secondary threats. The hostages were shaken but unharmed, thanks to her meticulous planning and decisive action under fire. As the night drew on, Mara allowed herself a small measure of of satisfaction. The ambush had tested every skill she possessed: tactical thinking, precision, patience, and leadership. But she had prevailed. Each life saved, each threat neutralized, reaffirmed the reason she endured grueling missions and constant danger. Courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was the mastery of fear to protect those who could not protect themselves. The river glistened under the moonlight, waves gently lapping against the pier, masking the storm of adrenaline inside Mara. The cartel members had retreated to their speedboat, thinking the night's chaos had bought them enough time to escape. Mara's pulse raced, but she forced herself to stay calm. Every second counted. Lila checked the engine of the second jet ski, ready for pursuit. Mara knew that at this distance, the only way to intercept them was a combination of speed, strategy, and impeccable aim. "Hold tight," Mara whispered, gripping the handlebars of her craft. The water reflected faint starlight, creating illusions that could deceive the eye. She adjusted her goggles, scanning for the enemy boat. Every movement, every ripple had to be interpreted with precision. The cartel's vessel was fast, heavily armed, but they hadn't accounted for Mara's resolve or her intimate knowledge of the river's twists and turns. Suddenly, a flare erupted from the boat, illuminating the dark waters. Mara ducked instinctively, shielding herself from the blinding light. Lila mirrored her motion, keeping their movements synchronized. Mara fired a warning shot, forcing the criminals to momentarily hesitate. That split second allowed her to close the distance. Her heart pounded, not with fear, but with the singular focus of stopping them before they could vanish into the darkness. The boat veered sharply, bullets ricocheting off Mara's jet ski as she expertly maneuvered closer. She knew one wrong move could capsize her craft, or worse, allow the cartel to escape. She signaled to Lila, and they executed a coordinated approach. Mara took the left flank, cutting off the escape path, while Lila circled around to block the right. The criminals, realizing their options were narrowing, grew frantic. Their movements became erratic, desperate, and Mara used every ounce of her training to anticipate their next maneuver. A sudden spray of bullets hit the water beside Mara, splashing in waves that could have thrown a lesser operative off course. Mara leaned into the Thames, each second bringing her closer to the fleeing vessel. The river narrowed, and the criminal's speed became a liability. Mara's mind raced through options. A direct hit could sink the boat, but it risked collateral damage. She needed precision. She aimed carefully, taking into account the current, distance, and angle. The first well-placed shot hit the engine, causing the boat to shudder violently. The criminals scrambled, attempting to restart it, but Mara's rapid follow-up shots disabled the remaining mechanical systems. Panic overtook them. Mara could see the fear in their eyes even from a distance. She pressed forward, ensuring the boat could go nowhere. Lila flanked them, adding additional pressure and eliminating any thought of a side escape. Finally, the boat slowed, spiraling helplessly in the water. Mara held her position, rifle trained, waiting until the last moment. Then, with a precise shot to the hull, the boat began taking on water, sinking slowly but effectively. The criminals were forced to abandon ship, floundering in the cold river, and Mara signaled authorities who were already en route to secure the scene. Relief swept over her, but she didn't allow herself to relax fully. Every operation had loose ends, and Mara's mind remained alert, scanning the water for any signs of survivors who might regroup or retaliate. By the time law enforcement arrived, the river was eerily quiet, save for the faint sound of water lapping against the sinking vessel. Mara and Lila guided the hostages to safety, ensuring everyone was accounted for. Emergency personnel attended to the criminals in custody, while the sun's first rays began to pierce the horizon, casting golden streaks over the scene. Mara allowed herself a deep breath, the first she had taken in hours, that wasn't dictated by survival instincts. She surveyed the river, noting the wreckage of the speedboat and the scattered gear of the cartel. Every threat neutralized, every hostage safe. It was a rare, perfect ending for a mission of such high stakes. Lila clapped Mara on the shoulder, a silent acknowledgement of the seamless teamwork and the countless small decisions that had led to this outcome. Mara's mind drifted briefly to the lives she had touched tonight, the courage she had witnessed in herself and Lila, and the resolve of the hostages who had survived unimaginable fear. This was the essence of her work, not glory, not recognition, but the quiet satisfaction of knowing she had tilted the balance of safety, even if only for a few lives, against the relentless tide of danger and criminality. As the hostages were escorted to waiting vehicles, Mara took a moment to reflect. Each mission brought challenges unlike the last. Some days were quiet reconnaissance. Others were high-stakes confrontations like tonight. The training, the sleepless nights, and the relentless commitment to protect others had forged Mara into someone who could operate in chaos without succumbing to it. She knew this mission would stay with her, etched into memory alongside the faces of those she had saved. In the distance, the river carried away the lost evidence of the cartel's escape attempt. Mara and Lila climbed onto the pier, exhausted but resolute. The dawn painted the sky in streaks of pink and orange, a stark contrast to the darkness and danger that had dominated the night. Mara allowed herself a small, fleeting smile. There was satisfaction in success in knowing that skill, courage, and teamwork had overcome desperation and greed. Mara glanced at Lila. "We did it," she said softly, almost to herself. Lila nodded, eyes reflecting both exhaustion and pride. They had navigated ambushes, outsmarted desperate criminals, and protected innocent lives, all while under relentless pressure. It was a testament to preparation, precision, and the unyielding spirit of those who choose to serve on the front lines of danger, often unseen and unsung. As authorities finalized reports and the hostages were safely taken to recovery, Mara allowed herself a rare pause. She knew the world wouldn't notice. The headlines wouldn't highlight the subtle heroism required in moments like these. But that didn't matter. She had lived it, she had acted, and she had succeeded. And that, for Mara, was enough. Even as the day broke and the river shimmered in the morning light, she remained vigilant, knowing there would always be another challenge, another life at risk, another moment demanding courage and precision. But for now, she could acknowledge the quiet triumph of a night where skill, determination, and relentless courage had prevailed. The mission was complete, the hostages safe, and Mara, alongside Lila, had once again proven that even against overwhelming odds, courage and determination could bend the tide in favor of those who chose to act.